Will China replace the United States as the sole superpower of the 21st century? It's one of the most important and urgent questions of our time. A global power shift is underway, and the outcome will shape the future of politics, technology, economics, and even war. But before we dive deep, let's understand. What exactly is a superpower? A superpower isn't just a country with a big economy or strong military. It's a nation that dominates in 5 key areas: economic strength, military capability, technological innovation, cultural influence, and diplomatic reach. The last country to check all 5 boxes, the United States, after World War II and especially after the Cold War. For over 3 decades, the US has led the world, economically, militarily, and ideologically. But now, a challenger has emerged: China. In just a few decades, China has grown from an isolated communist state to the world's second-largest economy, the largest manufacturer, and a technological force threatening to rival Silicon Valley. Its military is expanding, its global influence is growing, and its ambitions are clear. So the question is, can China truly replace the United States? Can it overcome its internal and external obstacles to become the sole global superpower of the 21st century? In this video, we'll explore that question from every angle: economic power, military strength, technological dominance, political systems, diplomatic influence, and demographic trends. We won't take sides. We'll present the facts, the projections, and the expert opinions, so you can decide what the future might look like. Stay with us till the end, because this is not just a story about 2 countries. This is the story of our world's future. When it comes to being a global superpower, military strength is non-negotiable. It's not just about firepower. It's about reach, readiness, and the ability to project power across continents. Let's begin with the current global leader, the United States. The United States spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined, with an annual defense budget of over $800 billion. It maintains a network of over 800 overseas military bases spread across 70-plus countries. From Germany to Japan, from the Persian Gulf to the Indo-Pacific, American troops are strategically positioned to respond to threats instantly. Its naval power is unmatched. The US Navy operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, backed by cutting-edge destroyers, submarines, and a powerful fleet of F-35 stealth fighter jets. No other country has this level of blue water navy, meaning the US can project power anywhere in the world. Then there's the Strategic Alliance Network, the NATO alliance, the AUKUS Pact with Australia and the UK, and the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance with Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. All enhance American influence and global military coordination. From cyber warfare to drone operations to space-based defense systems, the US continues to innovate. In short, the US is battle-tested, globally embedded, and strategically integrated with its allies. But now let's talk about the challenger, China. China has been aggressively modernizing its military since the early 2000s, especially under President Xi Jinping. The People's Liberation Army, PLA, once seen as outdated, is now transforming into a modern, high-tech force. Surprisingly, China now has the largest navy in the world by number of ships, though not by overall tonnage or power projection capability. It has developed DF-17 hypersonic missiles, which can travel at over Mach 5, making them nearly impossible to intercept with current US missile defense systems. China is also advancing rapidly in artificial intelligence, drone warfare, cyber warfare, and space-based surveillance, areas that could redefine future warfare. Militarily, China is now focusing heavily on regional dominance, particularly in the South China Sea and around Taiwan. It has built artificial islands with military bases, radar systems, and missile platforms, claiming strategic control over major trade routes. The Taiwan Strait remains the flashpoint. China has conducted frequent military drills and simulated blockades around Taiwan, signaling its willingness to use force if necessary. Its posture in this region is a direct challenge to US influence in Asia. However, while China's military is growing, it also faces significant constraints. First, China's focus remains regional, not global. Unlike the US, it doesn't have the overseas bases or logistics network to project power worldwide. Second, while China is expanding its nuclear arsenal, it still lags behind the US in terms of nuclear parity, especially in second strike capability and submarine-based deterrence. Third, and most critically, China's military is untested. The PLA hasn't fought a major war since 1979, during a short and inconclusive border conflict with Vietnam. In contrast, the US military has decades of combat experience in Iraq, Afghanistan, the Balkans, and elsewhere. There's also the question of coordination and command structure. In China's authoritarian system, military loyalty is tightly linked to the Communist Party, which could be a strength or a vulnerability in times of crisis. So can China surpass the US in military dominance? It's catching up fast, especially in regional power and next-gen warfare. But it still has a long way to go to match the global reach, strategic alliances, and combat-tested forces of the United States. The future battlefield may not be only on land, sea, or air, but also in space, cyberspace, and AI-powered systems. And in that race, the US still leads, though China is not far behind. In today's world, technological supremacy isn't just a measure of progress, it's the foundation of military power, economic growth, and even national security. So when we ask whether China can surpass the United States as a superpower, we must examine one critical battlefield: technology. At the heart of the tech race lies the question: who will lead the world in the next generation technologies that define the future? Let's start with artificial intelligence, AI, often called the new electricity of the 21st century. The United States has long led the field in AI research, innovation, and global influence. Companies like OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Meta, and Microsoft are pushing the boundaries of generative AI, large language models, and robotics. However, China is rapidly catching up. In fact, it often outpaces the US in AI implementation, especially in areas like facial recognition, surveillance technology, and data-driven automation. Chinese companies like SenseTime, Megvii, and Alibaba Cloud have deployed AI at scale across sectors, from policing to logistics. Then there's quantum computing. In 2020, Chinese scientists claimed to achieve quantum supremacy, performing a calculation faster than any classical supercomputer. While experts debate the implications, the message is clear. China is no longer just copying, it's innovating. But innovation comes with constraints. In the 5G revolution, Chinese tech giant Huawei was once a global leader. But US sanctions and security bans across Europe, Australia, and India have severely restricted its international growth. The fear that Huawei's equipment could be used for espionage by the Chinese government. At the center of the tech rivalry is one tiny yet powerful invention: the semiconductor chip. These chips power everything, from smartphones to missiles. And while China manufactures many electronics, it relies heavily on imports for high-end chips, especially from Taiwan's TSMC and South Korea's Samsung. The US has used this dependency as a strategic tool. Through export controls, Washington has blocked China from accessing advanced semiconductor technology and manufacturing equipment. This has crippled some of China's biggest companies, like Huawei and SMIC, from competing at the cutting edge. In response, China is investing heavily in chip self-sufficiency, pouring billions into its domestic semiconductor industry. But experts believe it could take a decade or more for China to close the gap. Technology leadership also depends on human capital, talent, education, and research ecosystems. The United States still holds the edge with its Ivy League universities, world-class research labs, and the unmatched innovation ecosystem of Silicon Valley. It attracts top global talent through programs like H-1B visas, drawing in the best minds from India, China, and beyond. But China isn't far behind. It now produces more STEM graduates annually than any country, and has rapidly growing hubs in Shenzhen, Hangzhou, and Beijing. Startups like ByteDance, TikTok, and DJI have proven China's ability to compete globally in both software and hardware. However, talent retention remains an issue. Many Chinese scientists and entrepreneurs move abroad for greater freedom and resources. This brain drain could slow China's momentum if not addressed. In the US, private companies lead research and development. Companies like Apple, Google, and Tesla set the pace, with federal funding playing a smaller, supportive role. In contrast, China's approach is state-driven. Under its Made in China 2025 strategy, Beijing has poured billions into targeted industries like robotics, biotechnology, AI, quantum computing, and green energy. This central planning gives China a focused direction, but critics say it can lead to inefficiency and lack of innovation freedom. Still, it's working. China is now a global leader in solar panel production, EV battery development, and drone technology, industries likely to shape the next generation of global economics. So, who leads in tech? The United States still dominates in fundamental research, global influence, and startup innovation. But China is rapidly scaling, implementing, and investing in long-term supremacy, especially in areas like AI, 5G, and quantum. The race is far from over, and the winner may decide who writes the rules of the 21st century. When we talk about global leadership, military and technology aren't the only deciding factors. The political system, how a country is governed, plays a huge role in shaping its stability, global image, and soft power. Let's explore how the governance models of the United States and China influence their potential to be the sole superpower of the 21st century. The US is a constitutional democracy with power divided among executive, legislative, and judicial branches. It has a free press, open elections, and a long-standing tradition of civil liberties. One of its greatest strengths is its openness to global talent. Immigrants from around the world come to the US to study, innovate, and build businesses. Many of the top tech CEOs in the US today are first-generation immigrants. This diversity and freedom fuel creativity and innovation, and it's a powerful model that many nations aspire to. But the US also faces serious internal challenges. Political polarization is at an all-time high. Partisan divisions between Democrats and Republicans often lead to policy gridlock, where major reforms are delayed or blocked. The January 6th Capitol riots in 2021 exposed the fragility of democratic norms in even the most powerful democracy on earth. There's also a rise in social unrest, distrust in media, and conspiracy-driven politics. In short, the US system allows freedom, but sometimes at the cost of coherence and rapid action. China, on the other hand, follows a single-party authoritarian model under the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. There are no competitive national elections, no free press, and dissent is often silenced through censorship and surveillance. Yet, this centralized system offers key advantages. With no electoral cycles, China can engage in long-term strategic planning. Its leaders can launch multi-decade projects like the Belt and Road Initiative or push for economic reforms without worrying about re-election. Decisions are made faster, laws are implemented more strictly, and the government can mobilize massive resources quickly, like during the COVID-19 lockdowns or major infrastructure rollouts. But this model also has serious flaws. Without public accountability or media scrutiny, policy mistakes can go unchecked. There's a risk of top-down errors, such as in the zero-COVID strategy or real estate overexpansion, which have massive economic consequences. Additionally, a lack of transparency and free speech means that citizens have little power to challenge corruption, inequality, or abuses. The US still wields powerful soft power through Hollywood, higher education, democratic values, and global media. Its model of liberal democracy, despite its flaws, remains aspirational for many around the world. But China is gaining influence, especially in the global South, Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America. Many developing nations view China's authoritarian efficiency as attractive. Fewer delays, more development, and massive infrastructure investments. Beijing positions itself as an alternative to Western democracy, offering state-backed development without the conditions of political reform. The real battle, then, is over which model the future world will follow. In the end, both systems have strengths and vulnerabilities. The US offers freedom, innovation, and institutional checks, but struggles with internal division. China offers speed, scale, and long-term planning, but suffers from lack of transparency and citizen voice. Whichever model proves more resilient and adaptable may define who truly leads the 21st century. When we talk about superpower status, we often focus on military and economic power. But there's another kind of power that's just as important: soft power. This is the power to influence the world through culture, values, diplomacy, and global trust, not through force, but through attraction. So how do the United States and China compare on this more subtle but deeply strategic front? The United States has arguably the most far-reaching soft power in history. From Hollywood movies to pop music, Netflix, YouTube, and fashion trends, American culture permeates almost every corner of the globe. Children in remote parts of the world wear Marvel superhero t-shirts, and millions dream of studying at Harvard or MIT. This global reach isn't accidental. It's backed by decades of media dominance, prestigious universities, and iconic global brands like Apple, Nike, and McDonald's. On the diplomatic side, the US is a founding member of critical international alliances and organizations: NATO, the G7, the UN, and the World Bank. It also leads in humanitarian aid, global health initiatives, and disaster relief efforts, enhancing its image as a global helper in times of crisis. Despite political missteps and controversial wars, the American model of democracy, individual rights, and innovation still inspires many across the world. When we look into the future, one factor becomes increasingly crucial in determining who might lead the 21st century: demographics. The size, age, and structure of a country's population directly impact its economy, military strength, innovation potential, and even social stability. Let's explore how China and the United States compare in this long-term race. For decades, China was the world's most populous country. Its 1.4 billion people powered the global factory and fueled rapid development. But today, China is facing a serious demographic time bomb. Its fertility rate has plummeted to around 1.2, far below the replacement level of 2.1. In 2023, China's population declined for the first time in 60 years, and it is expected to lose hundreds of millions of people by the end of the century. The population is also rapidly aging. By 2050, over 30% of Chinese citizens will be over the age of 60, putting immense pressure on healthcare systems and pensions. Meanwhile, youth unemployment is soaring, exceeding 20% in major urban areas. while the rural-urban divide remains wide, with development concentrated in coastal megacities. Add to this a rigid social credit system, strict internet censorship, and growing restrictions on expression and migration. These factors are contributing to a growing brain drain as educated youth and tech entrepreneurs leave for freer environments. In contrast, the United States has a younger and more dynamic population. Though birth rates have also declined, the US maintains a higher fertility rate, especially among its large and diverse immigrant population. Immigrants bring not only demographic replenishment, but also economic energy. They account for a large share of startups, STEM graduates, and innovation in fields like tech and medicine. Despite facing social tensions, cultural divisions, and political polarization, the US has historically shown an ability to adapt and integrate waves of immigration over time. In the long game, this demographic advantage could ensure a resilient labor force, continued innovation, and global leadership. While China faces a looming population decline and social rigidity, the US may benefit from its flexibility, openness, and youth. In the global race for superpower status, people, not just machines or missiles, might ultimately make the difference. No superpower journey is ever smooth. Beneath the surface of both China's rise and America's dominance lie serious internal vulnerabilities, structural cracks that could shape their global futures. Let's examine the domestic risks both nations face, which could slow or even derail their superpower ambitions. For years, China dazzled the world with high-speed growth, glittering skyscrapers, and bullet trains. But now, some of its deepest structural weaknesses are beginning to surface. One of the biggest red flags: the real estate crisis. Major developers like Evergrande and Country Garden have defaulted or teetered on collapse, leaving behind ghost cities, unpaid debts, and shattered investor confidence. China's debt-to-GDP ratio has soared, and much of this debt is tied up in shadow banking, opaque financial dealings outside official regulations, which increases systemic risk. Another concern is over-centralization of political power. With Xi Jinping's third term, China has moved further from collective leadership toward a one-man rule. While this enables quick decision-making, it also means fewer checks on poor policies or internal dissent. China also lacks an independent legal system, which undermines property rights, deters foreign investment, and limits citizens' ability to challenge injustice. These challenges may not grab international headlines daily, but they pose serious risk to China's long-term economic and political stability. On the other side of the Pacific, the United States, despite its power, faces its own demons. Gun violence remains a national epidemic, with mass shootings becoming tragically routine. Racial inequality, while improved over decades, still affects justice, housing, and education outcomes. Then there's healthcare, one of the most expensive systems in the world, yet millions remain underinsured or uninsured. Politically, debt ceiling debates, congressional gridlock, and increasing partisan polarization have led to frequent government shutdown threats and declining public trust in institutions. Meanwhile, the US faces looming environmental threats, climate change, extreme weather events, and an aging infrastructure system in urgent need of repair. These issues may not weaken America's global posture immediately, but they could erode domestic strength over time. Both China and the United States have enormous power and equally enormous problems. Their ability to confront internal risks will ultimately determine how far they can go on the world stage. Because a superpower isn't just built on strength abroad, it's sustained by resilience at home. As we look ahead, a crucial question emerges. What will the global power structure look like by the end of this century? Will it be a unipolar world dominated by a single superpower, a bipolar rivalry between two giants, or a multipolar landscape with many centers of influence. After the Cold War ended in the early 1990s, the world entered a unipolar moment, with the United States standing as the undisputed global leader. American military strength, economic power, and cultural influence went largely unchallenged. The world seemed to orbit around the US, setting the rules for global trade, security alliances, and international norms. But this era is now fading. Many experts warn we are entering a new bipolar era, a Cold War 2.0, with the United States and China locked in fierce competition. From trade wars and technological battles to strategic moves in the Indo-Pacific, these two powers are shaping much of the global agenda. Both have nuclear weapons, powerful militaries, and rival visions of governance. This rivalry fuels tensions over Taiwan, South China Sea disputes, cyber espionage, and influence in international institutions. However, unlike the US-Soviet Cold War, this new rivalry is more economically intertwined and complex. Yet the future might not belong to just two giants. A multipolar world is emerging where India, the European Union, ASEAN nations, Brazil and Russia exert growing regional influence. These powers pursue their own interests and often act as balancing forces between the US and China. International challenges like cyber warfare, climate change diplomacy, and artificial intelligence governance will likely require multilateral cooperation beyond any single country. The global stage may become more fragmented, but also more interconnected. The 21st century could see a complex interplay of unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar dynamics. No single model fully captures the fluid, uncertain reality ahead. What's clear is this: power today is less about domination and more about influence, cooperation, and adaptability. The future will be shaped not only by armies and economies, but by how nations navigate new technologies, global crises, and shared challenges. So, can China truly become the sole superpower this century? The short answer is extremely difficult. China's rise has been historic and rapid. Its economy rivals the US in size, its military is modernizing fast, and its technological ambitions are bold. In many areas, China already competes toe-to-toe with America. But becoming the only global superpower is not just about numbers or hardware. It requires global trust, a vibrant innovation ecosystem, demographic health, and political adaptability, areas where China faces significant hurdles. China struggles with demographic decline and an aging population, which threatens long-term economic growth and innovation potential. Its authoritarian governance model offers fast decision-making but limits transparency, individual freedoms, and policy flexibility, which can stifle creativity and breed internal tensions. Meanwhile, the United States, despite its flaws, has a deeply entrenched system that encourages reinvention and resilience. The US remains the world's leader in attracting talent, fostering innovation, and building durable alliances. China's global image challenges, such as concerns over human rights and aggressive diplomacy, also limit its soft power and acceptance abroad. In essence, China is more likely to become a co-equal superpower or lead a multipolar world rather than replace the US outright. The 21st century will likely be defined by competition and cooperation between multiple powerful nations, navigating shared global challenges like climate change, technology governance, and security threats. To wrap up, the path for China to become the sole superpower is filled with both incredible potential and steep obstacles. The US continues to hold key advantages, making the future a complex contest rather than a clear takeover. Now I want to know what you think. Can China lead the world alone? Or will we see a new world order with multiple powers sharing influence? Please share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for updates. And stay tuned for more videos on the US-China tech war, the dynamics of BRICS versus G7, and the exciting future of AI superpowers. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.